They say the market never sleeps. But that day it didn't just wake up, it screamed. I remember staring at the screen, red numbers bleeding across my monitor like a battlefield. Algorithms were panicking, orders were flashing, and in a single breath billions of yen evaporated into static. A glitch, they called it. But to me, it was something else, a whisper of opportunity hidden inside chaos. When the market glitched that day, it wasn't just a malfunction in numbers, it was a complete collapse of logic. Red figures blinked like warning lights across trading screens, and the usual hum of confidence in financial rooms turned into silence, then chaos. Everyone was watching as billions were wiped out in seconds. It felt like the end of order, the failure of the system that so many trusted blindly. Yet in that storm of panic, one truth revealed itself. Chaos is not the opposite of opportunity. In fact, chaos is the birthplace of it. Only those who can see through the storm can find what lies beyond the noise. For most traders, that day was a nightmare. Their instincts told them to retreat, to stop the bleeding, to protect what little they had left. Fear overpowered logic, and hesitation became fatal. But for the few who understood the deeper rhythm of the market, who had trained their minds not just to read charts, but to read emotion, that chaos was something else entirely. It was the moment the playing field leveled. When algorithms failed, when conventional wisdom broke down, the market became raw, human, and unpredictable. Exactly the kind of battlefield where legends are made. The idea that chaos can reveal opportunity is not a poetic metaphor, it's a practical truth. In the stock market, every crash, every glitch, every error exposes weaknesses that were invisible when everything seemed perfect. Prices drop below their real value. Assets are abandoned out of fear, and the crowd becomes blind. But opportunity never disappears, it only changes form. When the majority lose faith, the few who keep theirs find doors opening where others see walls. Takashi Kotegawa's entire philosophy as a trader was built on this understanding. He believed that panic is just data disguised as emotion. If you can separate the noise from the signal, if you can stay calm enough to think while everyone else reacts, you'll see what no one else can. On that legendary day, as the market glitched, this principle came alive. While traders everywhere froze, Kotegawa didn't look at the falling numbers with fear. He studied them like clues in a puzzle. He saw patterns in the chaos. He saw stocks that had no logical reason to be valued so low. He saw opportunity hidden behind fear. Where others saw a system collapse, he saw a market correction that was only temporary. It wasn't luck, it was preparation meeting the unexpected. Years of studying market behavior had taught him that volatility is not a threat, but an ally if you know how to move with it. The beauty of chaos is that it strips away illusions. When the market is calm, it's easy to believe that success comes from formulas, indicators, or trends. But when everything breaks down, you learn the real lesson: survival belongs to those who can think for themselves. In moments of confusion, there's no script, no pattern to follow. Only instinct, focus, and courage remain. That's where the opportunity lives, in the gap between fear and clarity. Kotegawa once said that the market is like a battlefield where emotion kills faster than bullets. When the glitch happened, it was as if that battlefield turned into a storm. Those who panicked were swept away. But for him, the storm was just another landscape. He didn't fight the chaos. He adapted to it. He waited for the precise moment when the fear of others became excessive, when prices stopped reflecting logic and started reflecting emotion. Then he acted. Every trade he made that day was a statement of confidence in his own analysis, not in the system. That's why he won while others lost. The story of that day is more than a tale of trading. It's a reflection of life itself. Chaos doesn't only exist in markets, it exists in every human endeavor. We all face moments when everything seems to collapse, when plans fail, systems break, and nothing makes sense. Most people freeze or flee. But the rare few who can pause, breathe, and see beyond the immediate panic are the ones who find hidden paths forward. They understand that disruption doesn't destroy opportunity, it reveals it. That's what the day the stock market glitched truly symbolizes. It wasn't about a technical failure or an error in the system. It was a test of perception, a moment that separated those who react from those who understand. It showed that chaos doesn't discriminate. It challenges everyone equally. What matters is how you respond. Do you let the noise consume you, or do you listen for the signal within it? Kotegawa's legend wasn't born because he was smarter than everyone else. It was because he stayed calm when everyone else lost control. He saw what others couldn't because he wasn't blinded by fear. That's the essence of turning chaos into opportunity, remaining composed long enough to notice what's actually happening. On that day, when the market seemed to glitch, he didn't see a breakdown. He saw the start of something new, a moment when the market, stripped of its illusions, revealed its true form. And in that clarity, he made his move, transforming uncertainty into triumph and chaos into legend. The stock market has always been described as a machine of logic, a system built on mathematics, data, and rational behavior. But anyone who has truly lived through the rise and fall of prices knows that this is only half the story. Beneath the charts, beyond the formulas, lies something far more unpredictable: human emotion. The second key idea in Kotegawa's philosophy is that the market is not ruled by algorithms or trends alone. It is ruled by psychology. Every number on that screen is a reflection of fear or greed, of hesitation or conviction, of millions of human decisions woven into one ever-changing pulse. On the day the stock market glitched, this truth became undeniable. Traders weren't just reacting to prices, they were reacting to each other. Every drop in value amplified fear. Every moment of hesitation created a chain reaction of panic. Like a crowd running from a shadow, people sold not because they understood what was happening, but because they didn't. The market became a mirror of emotion, a battlefield where the strongest force wasn't logic but psychology. Kotegawa understood this instinctively. He knew that numbers follow emotions, not the other way around. When the mass psychology collapses into fear, prices fall far below their real worth. When euphoria takes over, prices rise beyond reason. Recognizing this emotional rhythm is the secret to mastering the market. Most people believe success in trading comes from mastering formulas or predicting patterns, but Kotegawa's genius came from mastering himself. He understood that if the market reflects human emotion, then the trader's greatest enemy is not the market, it's their own fear. Every decision, every click, every hesitation is shaped by what's happening inside one's own mind. The difference between a panic sell and a legendary gain often comes down to the ability to silence that internal chaos. He once said, "If you can control your emotions, you can control your trades." That idea became the foundation of his strategy. When others were reacting to fear, Kotegawa was observing it. He didn't just look at falling numbers as data. He looked at them as emotional indicators. A sudden drop wasn't only a technical move, it was a sign that mass psychology had shifted. To him, that shift was as readable as any chart pattern. Where others saw randomness, he saw behavior. Where others felt panic, he saw opportunity wrapped in emotion. The key was to remain detached, to observe the market like a psychologist studying human behavior, rather than a gambler chasing luck. This understanding of psychology doesn't just apply to markets, it extends to every field where uncertainty rules. In moments of stress, whether in business, art, or life, people tend to abandon logic and follow emotion. Fear multiplies faster than facts, and hope rises quicker than evidence. The rare few who can remain objective when everyone else is emotional become the ones who make extraordinary decisions. Kotegawa's calm wasn't just discipline. It was empathy turned into strategy. He understood people so deeply that he could predict their collective behavior. On the day of the glitch, This insight made all the difference. As traders panicked, they created a feedback loop of fear, pushing prices even lower. But Kotegawa didn't fight that psychology. He used it. He knew that the market, like any crowd, would eventually overreact and then correct itself. So instead of fleeing with the herd, he positioned himself where the crowd would inevitably return. He trusted in human nature, not the algorithm, not the system, but the predictability of human emotion itself. What made that moment legendary wasn't just his timing, but his understanding of how psychology drives value. The market, stripped of its digital noise, is nothing but a collective reflection of belief. Prices rise when people believe they should. They crash when belief collapses. Once you see that, trading stops being about luck and starts being about reading emotion. That is the heart of Kotegawa's genius. He traded not against the market, but against mass emotion. When the glitch ended and the market corrected, many asked how he knew what to do. The truth is, he didn't know in a technical sense. He simply recognized a familiar pattern, the cycle of fear and recovery that defines human behavior. To see that clearly, one must stand outside it. And that's what separates a legend from the rest. The day the market glitched proved that psychology isn't a side effect of trading. It's the very essence of it. Logic and data are only tools. Emotion is the current that moves the tide. Understanding it is like understanding the heartbeat of the world's most unpredictable machine. Kotegawa didn't just trade numbers. He traded emotions, he read fear, and he turned the psychology of the crowd into his greatest advantage. That's why when everyone else saw chaos, he saw rhythm. When they saw danger, he saw human nature at work. And that made all the difference between panic and profit, between failure and legend. Calm is not just a virtue in the world of trading. It is the sharpest weapon a person can wield when everything begins to crumble. On the day the stock market glitched, calm wasn't merely a choice, it was survival. While chaos tore through the screens, alarms screamed, and traders' hands shook as if the very ground beneath their portfolios had collapsed, Takashi Kotegawa sat still. His mind was steady, his breath unbroken. The third key idea in his philosophy, that calm is the ultimate weapon, became not only visible but unforgettable. In a world where milliseconds decide victory or defeat, the instinct to act quickly can be fatal. Most traders panic not because the situation demands speed, but because fear distorts time. When prices fall sharply, the heartbeat quickens and logic fades into instinct. But instinct, when driven by fear, blinds rather than guides. Kotegawa knew that the only way to survive the market's madness was to slow down when everyone else sped up. Calmness gave him clarity, and clarity gave him control. The market rewards those who can think when others react, those who can separate movement from meaning. As the glitch spread and systems faltered, the atmosphere in trading rooms worldwide became electric with anxiety. Monitors blinked red, and traders yelled figures over the noise, trying to comprehend what was happening. Some were liquidating everything, others were frozen, unable to decide. Kotegawa, however, did the opposite. He watched, he analyzed. He took in the rhythm of the fall, the pulse of the panic. Where others saw danger, he saw information. In those crucial minutes, he transformed calm into an analytical tool. Not a lack of emotion, but the presence of focus. Calmness doesn't mean apathy. It is not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. Kotegawa wasn't emotionless. He simply refused to let emotion lead. The calm trader feels the same fear, the same tension, but channels it differently. Instead of reacting to it, he converts it into precision. He allows his mind to operate like a blade, silent, deliberate, and clean. Every decision made in that state is intentional, every movement guided by clarity. This mindset turned Kotegawa from a participant in chaos into an observer of it, giving him a perspective that others lost in panic. When people around you are drowning in confusion, calmness becomes power. It makes you the eye of the storm, untouched, centered, and aware. Kotegawa's calm was not natural, it was built. It came from thousands of hours of discipline, losses and lessons learned in silence. He had trained his emotions to obey logic, not to rebel against it. And so, when the market glitched, his calm wasn't luck, it was muscle memory. He knew that the worst decisions are made in haste and the best ones in stillness. The less noise in his mind, the more clearly he could hear what the market was truly saying. This principle extends far beyond the stock market. In every domain where uncertainty reigns, leadership, sports, negotiation, or crisis management, the same law applies. The calm mind is the most dangerous weapon. People often mistake movement for progress and reaction for intelligence. But true strength lies in restraint. The ability to pause when everything screams, "Act now," is what separates the master from the amateur. Kotegawa's calm wasn't passive. It was strategic. It allowed him to see the long game when everyone else was trapped in the present moment. During the glitch, as others dumped stocks in terror, he began to recognize the same irrational patterns he had studied for years. He could sense when the fear had peaked, when emotion had overpowered reason, and in that instant he acted, not out of impulse, but out of certainty born from patience. That is the paradox of calmness. It allows one to move fast without being hurried. His trades were precise, executed with the sharpness of someone who sees the market not as chaos but as choreography. When the market corrected and prices rebounded, the difference between winners and losers wasn't intelligence or access to information. Everyone had seen the same data. The difference was psychological state. The calm trader saw opportunities, the frantic trader saw danger. Both looked at the same screen, but one saw fear while the other saw possibility. That is the quiet magic of calmness. It changes perception, and perception changes outcome. Kotegawa's story reminds us that in any storm, whether digital, financial, or personal, calmness is not weakness but dominance. The loudest minds may shout, but it is the silent one that truly observes. In trading, just as in life, storms are inevitable. The question is not whether chaos will come, but who will stay still long enough to see through it. The day the market glitched proved that technology can fail, systems can falter, but the mind that remains composed will always find its way through. Calmness, then, is not merely a tool. It is the invisible armor that turns uncertainty into strength and crisis into creation. Luck is a comforting story people tell themselves when they cannot explain someone else's precision. But for Takashi Kotegawa, luck was never the author of his victories. Strategy was. The fourth key idea from that fateful day, when the market glitched and the world panicked, is simple but powerful. Strategy outlasts chance. Kotegawa's success was not an accident of timing, not a lucky click in the chaos, but the culmination of years of discipline, analysis, and psychological endurance. His legend was not written in a single moment of fortune. It was forged through deliberate mastery. When the market spiraled into confusion, most traders prayed for luck to save them. They closed their eyes, sold their positions, or froze in fear. But Kotegawa did not rely on prayer. He relied on preparation. Every decision he made that day had roots in thousands of hours spent studying how people react when systems fail, how numbers behave when logic collapses. He had seen panic before, not at that scale, perhaps, but he had learned its language. The glitch was not a surprise to him. It was just another test of whether he could execute his strategy under pressure. Luck is fragile. It appears bright but fades fast. Strategy, on the other hand, endures because it is built on structure. Kotegawa's structure was simple yet profound. Observe, analyze, wait, and act only when the market reveals its irrationality. He never chased movement for its own sake. His trades were not emotional responses but mathematical conclusions drawn from behavioral patterns. Even in moments of turmoil, he trusted his plan more than his feelings. And that trust, born from consistent discipline, gave him a calm precision that no glitch could break. In trading, as in life, People often confuse reaction with intelligence. They see someone act fast and call it genius. But true strategy is not about speed, it's about timing. Kotegawa's edge came from his ability to wait until every variable aligned, until emotion reached its peak and opportunity reached its lowest price. His success was not a roll of the dice, but the result of patience honed into instinct. By the time others noticed the opportunity, he was already inside it, positioned perfectly to ride the correction that followed the glitch. What made that moment legendary was not the size of his profit, but the depth of his foresight. While others stared at screens hoping for a miracle, Kotegawa had already mapped the battlefield. He understood that chaos follows patterns. Even randomness has rhythm. He knew that after every extreme fall comes an equally extreme correction, and that behind every panic lies exhaustion waiting to reverse. Strategy for him was the art of reading the psychology of crowds, not predicting numbers. It wasn't luck that he bought low and sold high. It was the execution of a framework that turned human emotion into opportunity. Luck may open a door once, but strategy builds a house. Kotegawa's consistent success over years proved this truth. Anyone can stumble into profit once. Only a strategist can repeat it. He treated each trade as part of a larger structure, a chain of small, disciplined moves leading toward mastery. He didn't chase jackpots, he built edges. Every trade, win or lose, was data, a lesson to refine his system. That's why, when the market glitched, he didn't flinch. He trusted the structure more than the storm. His discipline was his safety net, and his analysis was his compass. People often call moments like that miracles. But miracles don't happen by accident. They happen to those who are prepared when the impossible occurs. Kotegawa's preparation wasn't glamorous. It was the kind of quiet obsession that happens long before dawn, staring at screens, replaying charts, studying behavior. Strategy lives in that silence. So when the market erupted, he was ready, not because he foresaw the glitch, but because he had trained himself to act logically when everyone else acted emotionally. Luck can make you rich once. Strategy makes you legendary forever. The difference lies in sustainability, in the ability to replicate success under any condition. Kotegawa's calm, his control, his precision, they were not gifts of chance but outcomes of discipline. He didn't need luck because his process was designed to function even when the system failed. The glitch didn't create his success, it simply exposed it to the world. When the market recovered, journalists called it the miracle trade, a once-in-a-lifetime event. But Kotegawa knew better. There was no miracle, only method. What others called luck was just the visible tip of a vast iceberg of effort, patience, and mental training. His story reminds us that strategy isn't just about having a plan. It's about having a mindset built to withstand chaos. It's about preparing so deeply that when uncertainty strikes, your actions look like instinct. That is the legacy of the day the market glitched. It wasn't a lucky day, it was the day strategy proved itself stronger than randomness. It was the moment when a man's discipline met destiny, not by accident but by design. And that is why legends are not born from luck. They are built, trade by trade, through the quiet, relentless pursuit of mastery. Resilience is the silent force that defines those who rise above chaos and turn collapse into creation. It is the unshakable spirit that endures when systems fail, when plans disintegrate, and when every signal screams to give up. The fifth and final key idea, that resilience defines a legend, stands at the heart of Takashi Kotegawa's story. On the day the stock market glitched, countless traders fell, not because they lacked knowledge, but because they lacked endurance. They could not stay composed long enough to see the cycle turn. Kotegawa, on the other hand, proved that resilience is not just the ability to survive the storm, but the ability to grow stronger inside it. When the glitch hit, it wasn't just prices that crashed, it was confidence. The entire market's psychology fractured. Those who had spent years building strategies suddenly abandoned them in a single hour of fear. But Kotegawa did not break. He had seen enough volatility to understand that the market tests not only your skills but your patience, your discipline, and your faith in your own process. The glitch for him wasn't an ending, it was a challenge. A test of whether he could stay grounded while the world trembled. That is the essence of resilience, remaining whole when everything else comes apart. Resilience is born in discomfort. It doesn't emerge when things go smoothly, it's forged in the fire of failure, frustration, and loss. Before that legendary day, Kotegawa had experienced setbacks of his own. He had made trades that went wrong, faced days where he lost millions, and spent nights questioning his decisions. But instead of allowing those moments to define him, he studied them. He turned every failure into a lesson, every mistake into data. Over time, those scars became his armor. That is why, when the market glitched, he didn't panic. He recognized the chaos as something familiar, something he had already faced in smaller forms. His resilience wasn't spontaneous, it was practiced. In trading, resilience doesn't mean stubbornly holding on to losing positions or ignoring reality. It means adapting intelligently without losing composure. Kotegawa's resilience came from flexibility, not rigidity. He could change his tactics without abandoning his core principles. He didn't cling to certainty. He embraced uncertainty as the natural state of the market. To him, the glitch wasn't a disaster but a phase in an endless cycle of rise and fall. That perspective allowed him to act rationally while others drowned in emotion. Where others saw the end of the world, he saw a temporary distortion waiting to be corrected. Resilience also means knowing when to trust time. Many traders fall because they demand immediate validation. They want instant profits, instant clarity, instant control. But the market rewards patience, not impatience. Kotegawa's strength was his ability to wait, not passively, but with awareness. He understood that fear doesn't last forever, and that every panic eventually exhausts itself. His resilience came from a long view of things, the ability to zoom out and remember that no storm, however violent, lasts forever. That long-term mindset is what separates a legend from a lucky survivor. Even after his success, Kotegawa never glorified that day as a stroke of brilliance. Instead, he saw it as a lesson in endurance. The glitch didn't just test his strategy. It tested his identity as a trader. He proved to himself that he could remain still in chaos, rational in confusion, and humble in victory. That inner balance, that mental endurance, is what truly defines resilience. It's not about avoiding pain or fear, but about moving through them with purpose. The world tends to celebrate results, the headlines, the profits, the moment of triumph. But what truly deserves admiration is the resilience behind it, the quiet strength to stay committed, the emotional stamina to endure losses, the discipline to keep learning when things go wrong. Kotegawa's story reminds us that anyone can perform well in ideal conditions. True character reveals itself only in collapse. His resilience wasn't just about making the right trades. It was about holding his composure while everything he knew seemed uncertain. In a way, the glitch was symbolic. It showed how fragile systems can be, how even the most advanced structures can crumble in an instant. But it also revealed something timeless: human resilience is stronger than any failure of code or machine. Kotegawa's success that day wasn't about beating the market. It was about proving that a calm, resilient mind can outlast any form of chaos. The market may glitch, the system may fall, but the human spirit, disciplined, patient, and unyielding, remains the most powerful force of all. Resilience, then, is not a reaction to crisis but a way of living. It means training your mind to see every downfall as preparation for the next rise. Kotegawa understood that legends are not made in comfort. They are built in the moments when everyone else gives up. His ability to keep faith in his method, to stay emotionally stable when logic disappeared, transformed him from just another trader into a symbol of endurance. That day, the market glitched and the world panicked, but one man stayed grounded. Not because he was immune to fear, but because he had learned how to master it. And that is the ultimate truth. Systems may break, numbers may fall, but resilience endures. It is the quiet flame that keeps burning when everything else turns to ash. And it is that flame that made Takashi Kotegawa not just a trader, but a legend. And so, when the screens finally went still and the chaos faded into silence, I realized something simple yet eternal. The market doesn't reward the fastest nor the loudest. It rewards the one who endures. Every glitch, every crash, every moment of panic is just another mirror held up to human nature. The question is never, will the storm come? The question is, will you still be standing when it passes? Because legends aren't made when everything works. They're made when everything breaks. And someone still has the courage to believe, to think, and to act with calm precision. So remember this. The market may glitch again. The world may tremble again. But if your mind stays steady, your strategy sharp, and your spirit unbroken, then chaos will never defeat you. It will define you. That is the true secret of that day. The day the stock market glitched and made a legend.